All right, we're going to talk about volume of solid word problems today. We're going to take what we've done the last few classes and apply it to some word problems. And using the formulas that we've been discussing, we should be able to find the answers with a little bit of work after that. So first thing I want to do is review the formulas for each one of the solids that we've been looking at so far. So go ahead and write down the formulas for the 5 solids listed here. That way we have everything on a sheet of paper. So if we forget while we're doing our word problems, we have something to look back on. So what you should have written down for volume of a prism is the area of the base times the height. Cylinder is also area of the base times the height, except the area of the base of a cylinder is always going to be a circle, so we can use pi r squared instead of b in that formula. Cone is similar, except this time it's 1/3 times the area of the base times the height. Again, the area of the base of a cone is always going to be a circle as well, so we can plug that in there also. A pyramid is 1/3 times the area of the base times the height, and a sphere is 4/3 times pi times r to the third power. Now remember, B represents the area of the base, H represents the height of the solid, and R represents the radius of the solid. So the first problem that we're going to look at here, we're going to do together, just to walk you through, make sure that we feel good about solving these word problems first, and then I'm going to have you do some on your own. So this is my dilemma right now that I'm facing. So I need some topsoil for my backyard, and I have to cover a 12-yard by 5-yard section, and I want to put 3 inches of soil in that section. I need to know how many trips it's going to take me to get the soil if my truck bed dimensions are 2 yards by 1 1/4 yards by half a yard, and how much money will I spend to get the amount of topsoil I need if the cost is $18 per cubic yard. So as you can see, I've highlighted the 3 different sentences here because there's really 3 parts to this problem. Remember, breaking these problems down into smaller parts to find our solutions is always a good way to approach these problems. So the first part to this problem is to figure out how much soil I need. Then I need to figure out how many trips it's going to take. And lastly, how much will it cost me? So looking at part 1, how much soil do I need? Well, the first thing I need to do, if I'm just looking at that first sentence, I have 12 yards, 5 yards, and 3 inches. I need to convert the 3 inches to yards because that's the measurement that's used in the rest of the problem. So I'm going to take 3 divided by 36 because there's 36 inches in a yard, and I get the decimal point 0.083 repeating. Now that I have that, I can plug that in to the volume formula. Since this is a rectangular prism, I'm just going to take 12 times 5 times that 0.083 repeating. And when I do that, I get the volume of that section of my yard is 5 cubic yards. Now that I have that, I need to figure out how many trips it's going to take. Again, I have to do a little bit of work before I can find the answer to how many trips it's going to take. First thing I need to do is find the volume of my truck. The dimensions, the measurements are all the same units, so I can just go ahead and plug them in. Again, it's a rectangular prism, so I have 2 times 1 1/4 times a half, and I get the volume of my truck is 1.25 cubic yards. Now, that's not answering the question, so to answer the question how many trips it's going to take, I'm going to take the 5 cubic yards from the volume of the yard divided by how many yards fit in my truck, and I get that it'll take me 4 trips. Lastly, how much will it cost? For this one, I have all of the information I need. I just need to apply it. So I have 5 cubic yards for the dirt that I need. It costs $18 per cubic yard from the problem. Multiply those together, and I get a final answer of $90 for the amount of dirt that I need. So when you do these problems, there's just a few helpful tips to do them. Make sure you read the problem, go back, highlight and underline keywords and numbers, and then use what you know. Right now we're talking about volume, so obviously you should be thinking that you're going to use volume formulas for all these problems. Next, break the problem down into smaller problems that will lead to your final answer, just like we did on that previous problem. And we had 3 different parts that led to our final answer. And the big thing is just make sure that you attempt all the problems. Don't leave any of them blank. Even if you get it wrong, we can go back, look at it, and figure out what happened and correct that mistake. So use these tips, use what we did on the example, and go ahead and get started on your work.